about this GDPR, one of all GDPR little bit, maybe it's one of the complex legislation on this planet. And, despite, some of the critics, right? And, it's written by lawyers for lawyers. And, it's written by lawyers. It's one of the toughest legislation and complex legislation with a strong DNA, a baby with a strong DNA. Let's see how it survived. It already survived 4 years. It's not just in one day they did it. Regulation, directive to regulation, it came back. Our main agenda is not to dissect those DNA thingy in the GDPR. We'll just stick to the basic things. See, finally, what is that actually? What are those fundamental blocks? PII. Everybody knows. We'll not talk about what is personal information and all. I'm not going to dwell into the details because we know that. And whether it is like a telephone number, place of birth, or postal code, or whatever, we all knows that. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here and waste our time here. And yes, in housekeeping, I don't think anything there is a housekeeping here, and it's all open. We'll see that. Yes, this is what I'm going to talk about today. And these are the main 4, building.
You have to share your screen.
Sir.
Yeah.
I think it's there.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
No, I think it is.
We can see the
Okay,
screen.
We can
4
see.
main building blocks,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Manju?
Yes.
Okay. See, in this, if anybody defines PII, right, they'll see any information, we can talk in English or in Kannada or any kuch bhi, any information relating to whom? Relating to somebody, maybe person, natural person. Let's take it's a natural person right now. And then identified or identifiable. It can be identified is identifiable. So if you look at this, suffix, we'll talk about this suffix also. What is able, identified. And 4th element is natural person. Then what about the dead person? So time being, let's leave the dead person to the dead. Otherwise they will crawl up and leave through us, We'll leave the dead person to the dead, right? We'll see that. So we'll just again, and this people should not get annoyed. Hey, we have read through this all GDPR definition and all. So just take it easy, just for the sake of, reading, Personal data means any information. This is the first element. Relating to, second element. Identifier or identifiable, third element. And natural person, fourth element. These are these blocks. These are the fundamental blocks. Fundamental blocks or fundamental elements, like, I'm not saying it's not an atom or something, but these 4 building blocks are closely intertwined and feed on each other. Any information about Bhimesh, any information about Kondarama sir, anybody, how they feed on each other. They'll pick up some information somewhere else, and then it can be jigsaw identification and anything. How this personal data, they usually, this legislation, what they did, they wanted this personal data to be as general as possible, so that you can include so much of information in concerning and identifiable information. Like, they wanted to they never wanted it to be like this. They would do a lot of latitude. It can move around here and there. She collect PIA, natural, whether it's a specific, specialized category and all, any information. I'm not talking about PIA or PHI and all. PIA is actually, PHI is a subset of PII. We can talk about that also. But yes, definition, main intention of European Commission was to cover the wider definition of this personal information, any information, and this one will feed this. This one will feed this. We don't know. They can go back and feed this as a natural person. Maybe I know Bhimesh here. Let me connect this one. Okay. Any information. So they are feeding each other. They're intertwining. They're closely related. They're like a lot of cohesivity is there in that. Okay. And we'll take one example at a time. As I said, right, I'm not going to say what is personal information or what do you call this PI, define these elements. What are those things? We're not worried about because we already gone through that. It's going to be really boring, people. Okay. And what is personal information? If somebody says any information, say any information. For example, these 4 building blocks, as I said, they're already wind and feeding on each other. So any information clearly signals willingness of the legislator to design broad concept of personal data. I think you guys agree with me for that wider interpretation and all. And there is objective, for example, involved in this. And subjective also, objective information and subjective information. For example, objective is like somebody's blood group. They have taken my blood group. They're going to, blood is not a personal data. The contents of the blood is the data. Personal data it can be. And when it comes to some subjective, for example, let's say subjective, for example, Abdullah's, my favorite name is Abdullah. Abdullah is actually having like what you call his mother had some hemophilia diseases. This is an hereditary thing, right? I mean, using that information, his mother is dead, no longer there, maybe 20, 30 years back, but he's still being haunting him. Oh, he's carrying those diseases, whatever, inherited diseases, right? Hereditary diseases, we call them, right? And he might be having a problem. But if you look at this definition in civil law, personal information is protected only of the natural persons who are alive. People who are dead, that doesn't affect. But in this case of Abdullah, and this poor guy is being like, maybe somebody is not getting married, and he's in big problem. A lot of discrimination happened, harm. It's not a physical harm, it's a tangible harm, intangible harm has happened. Like that, any information, if you look at this prescription of the drug, right? Doctor writes with his letterhead, although the patient's name is not there, but doctor's letterhead also carries a personal information. So what I'm trying to do, any information, that's what I'm trying to focus here. So that's the significance of here. Maybe it's not a big thing, but yes. So anywhere you guys feel like holding me, please, stop me. You can always park, and I'll try my level best to explain. Otherwise, you can park it and take it offline or talk to Navi sir and other, veterans. Okay.
Bhimesh ji,
Aji.
I have a doubt. See,
Sure.
how the doctor's name and prescription
Ah.
can be identified up to the doctor. If the patient's name is not there, it may not cause any harm to the patient. So
See.
patient cannot claim for any harm. In fact, doctor doesn't want to give his prescription to anybody else. Somebody may copy. If that is the situation, can it be?
Yes. How you? Yes. Very good question. $1 million question. See, we are all like, basically we are greedy and, what do you call this? We are human beings. Like, we would like to take advantage of certain situation, how it fits in. Because we all go, not up 90% is all negative emotions, right? Doing this, arrange all those. We don't know. It can be used in any way, sir. If it causes harm, then it's a problem. That's the point here. I'm not talking about the consequences, Navi sir. Sorry,
Who is
Kondarama
going
sir.
to be victimized in this example? Who is the victim?
See,
Whether the patient or the doctor?
patient's name in this example, what do you call? Patient name is anonymous. Somewhere I read it. Yes. Patient name is anonymous here. Patient name is not there. Automatically, the target will be doctor. How you can target? Con artist, social engineering people can always do that. Our intention is to say any information. This can be professional habit, for example. It can be anything. That's what my point here is. How the targeting, harming and happens, we can take it to the next level. We can discuss it once I cover all these things also, if you don't mind. If there is a time, in the interest of the time, we'll move fast and then we squeeze the pedal whenever it's required. And again, it's about the same, any information. Today examples I'm taking here. After that, I'll just jump over. So for example, if you look at the current format of the medium, like for example, it can include alphabetical or photographical or any video thingy also required here, for example. So what is that actually? My kids' drawing is also personal information. Yes, I think some of the people who have studied copyrights or IPR rights, you have studied, right, sir? In that, if you're taking a photograph of your children with a certain style, you can also have that copyright protected. I think Kondarama sir can agree with me. So we can identify certain things using those things. Particularly, that's why I think, this anywhere you come, let's say, for example, take it the video, sir, here. Simple example. Here, telephone banking. I'm calling those file for video, for quality and, this purposes or whatever purpose they say, right? You will be recorded. But they're supposed to protect my information. They are supposed to apply this PIA over there also. They cannot store it somewhere for indefinite thingy. Then again, it's not becoming a lean thingy for banks and all, right? For quality purposes. They're going to store it. There is going to be a big headache for them because their model is not going to be lean. Okay. But yes, their PIA things are applied. And again, if you look at the video system also, right? Video surveillance camera, although you don't capture the audio, right? When it comes to public thingy. But yes, it's again a personal data. So my point here is to any information. I'm just trying to target this one here. Okay. And coming to the second element here. And this building block of the definition is again crucial. And it's very important to find out that which are the relations, links that matter to distinguish them. We need to distinguish from relating to what? Indirect, direct. You should be able to distinguish them. For example, let's say, for example, if there is information that relates to an individual team, when it is about that individual, right? For example, in general terms, in some situation, information is conveyed, but the data concerns objects. In the instance of, for example, what? If data, those objects usually belong to someone, for example, let's say car thing here, house or car. We describe about that. This house cost like $1 million, $2 million. I mean, Kondoramasa can say that how the hell it, what the hell it makes difference to these people, other people. They can make out so many things. Our brain is, it's going to jig, use that, our brain is the one, it can beat the cosmic speed. Jigs and jogs. Where it goes, you don't know. Journey without money, it just travels everywhere. It's there everywhere like a time traveler. That is the only thing it can beat on this, universe. It's the cosmic speed of our brain. And you can just, use the puzzles and join the information. Oh man, this guy is a rich guy. Oh, Kondarama sir was working there. He might be carrying 20, 30 million. Those things I can use it relating to your job, your house, your gadi, the place you live. It's a posh people over there, In US, they used to say, no, those bad bulls don't come here. That's what they say in US. So those are the areas you go and, cover those, right? Buy those houses and all. How much it costs? Like relating to that house, you sell that house. Oh, you might be earning so much of information. I'm going to delve into the details without anything, using my brain. That's what it belongs to someone, belongs to, for example, Navi sir. So automatically I'm going to, process that information. So information conveyed to data, for example, if that I'm just talking about this house, let's say this house, particular house is belonging to somebody. What is that? Is somebody, he's going to sell it at like $2 million. What information I can decipher from? Many things it can be deciphered. So that we can take it offline, just trying to create that, inquisitiveness. One of the fundamental duties of Indian Constitution is to create that, we have that fundamental duty, scientific development, scientific temper. So that scientific, temper I'm developing, nothing else, but I may not be able to give all the examples. And again, car service relating to, right? For example, now Kondorama sir has given a car service. When it is applicable, when you process the information, like for example, functioning of any machine, car, and Kondorama sir has given a car to Suzuki, for example, that mechanic knows. Mechanic's information is also involved in that, and Kondorama sir's information is also involved in that. How it is done, invoice, all those things you can dwell into the details. The moral of the story is I'm just focusing on this relating to. So that's the moral. And yes, again, I will just give an example here. Even minutes of meeting can be, for example, having the personal information. Oh my God, a lot of MOMs happen in your company, but no need to lose your good night's sleep. But when you, for example, talk about somebody's sick leaves, where did he go? Where did he get operated on? Those kind of things you need to be careful. That person whose things we're discussing has every right to ask for those MOM. For example, in case of Abdullah is there, for example, Gundappa, Gotaya, those guys can have MOM meetings. But if you talk about Abdullah's whereabouts, where did he go? Where was his vacation? And he has every right to ask you for that MOM detail. But again, as I said, right, no need to lose your sleep. And for example, you need to focus. For example, meeting is about more than one employee. Let's say 10 employees are there. Here, look at this place, certain time and place. So you don't need to worry about that. Are we discussing too much about the personal information? Somebody is being shocked. Somebody is being promoted. I don't think it's personal information. When you discuss, oh, Bhimesh was not in today. Oh, he was not feeling well. Okay, what happened to him? Then you are going a little bit deep there, relating to his personal PHI, maybe, for example. That's where you need to be careful. You need to know where the lines, draw those lines and stop yourself. I'm just trying to give, your emails can be also, for example, what you call, your emails can also be like what you call, having those personal information, right? Agree with me, at certain times, we talk about those emails and all. Sometimes it contains that email information also. For example, what about the what about the, somebody is asking me, sorry, it's coming there. So my main moral of the story, sir, here is MOMs can also contain, for example, personal data. It depends. You need to derive that. If Kondarama sir is conducting a meeting and you are talking about Bhimesh, some health information I was saying, and gone blah 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 blah. Bhimesh has every right to ask you, show me that, what did you guys discuss? So That is one thing. Again, coming to this third element, I'm running like a bullet speed. Okay, identifiable. Okay, suffix will see that. So am I going at the right speed, sir, Kondarama sir, or should I slow down a little bit?
No, this speed is required.
Okay, okay. I think, I remember, people who watch video, I mean, in case of even, what do you call this, YouTube also, right? Amitabh Bachchan's, what do you call, video advertisement camera. First of all, it's 1 minute. Sometimes after 2 weeks, it may be 45 seconds. Maybe it's 30 seconds. After that, it's maybe 5 seconds. They're smart people. They just leave it. So after like a month, 5 seconds, everything goes in your mind. We go back in time, connect all those dots and, join this. Like here, I think 10, 15 years back, there was in Pune, IT park, one girl was kidnapped and, raped and murdered. And that decision, it was very unfortunate incident happened in Pune. Even in Bangalore also happened. I think you guys can try or anyway, sentenced to life imprisonment. And this girl, and that after the verdict came in, it appeared in the newspaper. So earlier it was like maybe 1-2 pages was there, like maybe 10, 15 years. After this, when the verdict happened, just maybe a small page. But people were able to go back, although small information was given in the newspaper, fragmented information, people were able to identify. They was identified who was the aggressor. They identified that guy, identified the culprit. It was identifiable using those things. Am I making sense here, sir, or no? Hello? As I said, this, if you use that information, any fragmented information, it can be identified or identifiable. But what happens after this? It can raise some of the questions. Like natural person can be considered as identified when within a group of persons, he or she is distinguished from all others. Like for example, 10, 20 people who are here. If I distinguish Navi sir or you out of this group, then I'm able to identify. You have been identified. We have been able to identify you. You are identifiable. Like if you use the fragmented information of 10 years backstory, if you identify that from group of the people, then it's again a personal data. Maybe, in UK, they put all those criminal information on the web. And then, some people came, boss, you don't do that. You're not supposed to do that. When they're also worried. Tomorrow, if they're gone on parole and all, that everything is done, their systems will be there, like digital footprints will be there on the web. So remove that, mask the information, redact it or something like that. You cannot just declare it. But it has to be, again, moral of the story here is law enforcement agencies should also protect this criminals information also. Okay, it's been identifiable, for example. Okay, so some people's outward signs, how he looks, how he walks. Like look at the Bollywood people, right? They walk in certain style. They, for example, Shatrughn's style is different when he speaks. So those are the things you can outward looks, voice, and all you can use to identify the person. Okay, that's also personal information data. So how many of you guys sang this like to your kids? Like do you know the Muffin Man song? I used to do this. Do you know the Muffin Man story? They used to say, right, Muffin Man used to live on the Duray Lane. But Muffin Man was actually a serial child killer. I don't know how many of you guys knew this. It's a true story, sir, Kondarama sir. But they started this Muffin Man story. What they're trying to identify him, they're telling the kids, he lives on the Duray Lane. His name was different. But they give him the nickname. Sometimes the wrong information can also be used to identify the person. That's also personal data, sir. His Muffin Man's name is not actual name. They just gave him some nickname. That's the wrong information. Still, they could identify that information related to that, indirectly identifiable or identification. Do you know the Muffin Man who lives on the Duray Lane? I mean, that was people or kids used to listen to that. The real story is he was a serial murderer. Sorry to say that, but we all sang when Indians usually. But that was the moral of the story. They were trying to identify this guy using the wrong information. In some places, wrong information to identify somebody is also personal data. You guys can buy it or not. We can take it offline and discuss it. Here is the story of Muffin Man. It came in my mind. I put it. Okay. So Muffin Man story happened. Again, I think, asylum seekers and genocide of Jews by Hitler. It actually is my idea putting this one here. See, Second World War, I think Germany was the first country, I think, it had to come up with one of the toughest privacy regulations because of that, atrocities on Jewish people. And that guy used to tag them with a dog tags with an, aluminum thing and brace them. And use after that, he used to identify them and take them to the patient, whatever. Just you guys know that. And now, like asylum seekers also, like, people enter US from Texas border, right? They given a tag here. Instead of giving all the information, using the tag, you can, officers can identify that person. So again, identifiable natural person. Like, in US, they use that dog military, what is that called? Tag in the dog tag in the military, right? I mean, that's what they do it. So atrocities against the Jews, they had that tag, this Hitler had done it. That's natural identification happened with them. And as I said again, to repeat that, Germany was, I think in Europe, it had the toughest privacy laws at the provincial levels. Maybe now, even if the GDPR is there, maybe 90% is there are some rules, they can 10%, they can have the tailoring, right? So that's what they're able to do it. And this is one of the, again, you can identify or identifiable natural person using whatever means. Okay. So Muffin Man story happened. And, other, for example, John Smith who looks on that, for example, post office, Bhimesh Karaddi lives on that JPN as a 9th phase. That can also be used as a personal information. So not much here. And we'll see natural person. Third element is still there. For example, public surveillance, right? They do it here. And to identify the thieves, but they try to redact that guy's face, nothing can be seen, but his hairstyle is visible. Kondarama sir or Bhimesh Karaddi, this guy I've seen in, this guy wears jeans and he's been wearing this. Outwards looks are still there. Whatever haircut, some people have the specific haircut. Clothes are still recognizable for their neighbors. I mean, it looks easy. I redacted his face, boom, masked it. No, still it is a natural person's data. You need to use that anonymization. Like, anonymization is one of the thing I think, we should go for that. I think like, closing, what do you call this, complete blacking out the information. I will not read the definition. I mean, as I said, right, our main today's agenda was about those fundamental blocks. And here, I would like to take one, what is that even anonymization? Maybe it's not coming in my mind. Okay, anyway, let me go to the next point. Sorry about that. Here, I was talking about Jigsaw information, right, sir? Kontrama, sir. Jigsaw. What is Jigsaw actually? I mean, I told, right, journey without money, my brain travels. I think there was an old joke. I think Moscow, right, from Red Square. Anybody drinks that vodka, right, they will always flying in the air. Like they're everywhere. That one guy thought, I'll go up in the sky and 24 hours after that I will be landing exactly in the New York City. So that guy never realized that after that 24 hours also he landed back in Moscow. Because he was in the stratosphere, whatever those, he was going with, that also layer rotates with the earth. I mean, there is a joke, right, sir, Kondarama, sir? This Moscow Red Square people drink vodka and, they're just there. I mean, yeah. So journey without money, like, you can travel anywhere. And I was talking about this puzzle thingy, puzzle, so many things our brain processes. It's a supercomputer. Nobody can beat the speed. I mean, cosmic speed, somebody says our brain can beat. I can be there on the moon. Boom, no time. I'm there. I'm visualizing it. There actually, Navisargar, Pune, Bangalore, anywhere I can go. Try, travel, journey without money, I call it, like, So coming to this Russian story, and you can have a lunch if you want in India. In Bangalore, you can have a lunch immediately in New York City also. If you are having that, like, cloning yourself, time traveler. So Jigsaw thingy can help you identify main thing. Jigsaw is like ability to identify someone by using 2 or more different pieces of information from 1 or 2 resources. It can be multiple. It can permutation combination. Just not a multiple. This is just it's innumerable things it can just connect. Then you're going to, identify that natural person. Okay, that's a Jigsaw identification. And coming to the last element here, 4th element, natural person. Data processing systems are designed to serve a man. Maybe, people will be thinking it's a discriminative thingy. Okay, why not women? And, they must do whatever, nationality or residency, it's a fundamental right. So they talk about this, right, Charter of Fundamental Rights, European Union thing. And we talk about this, UNSCR also, right? What is that? Everything they talk about, right? So fundamental duty of every nation is to protect their, fundamental right is actually to protect myself, right? As a European Union guy, for example, even here also it's coming up, it's picking up. Okay, if you look at the recital 1 of GDPR, data protection as a fundamental right. The protection of natural persons in relation to the processing of personal data is a fundamental right. So it's just default. You cannot just say no. It's default. You have to do that one, and respect for the fundamental rights and freedoms. And when it comes to the recital 2 of our GDPR, you're processing and using the principles and rules of protection of natural person with regard to the processing of their personal data, whatever their nationality. That's the beauty of this here. If I go to US, UK, for example, they will not say you're coming from, you're an alien. Yes, of course, I have an alien number I'm carrying, but they have the fundamental rights to protect and fundamental duty to protect their personal data. Hope, and coming to this, another thing, regulation is particularly civil law. I'm not sure about common law, sir, because civil law is followed in most of the European countries. Britishers follow that, I think common law. We also follow common law. In civil law, the dead person is no longer a natural person. That's been declared. And he is not supposed to be protected automatically, right? So we don't have to lose our sleep. But there is actually catch here. We'll see what is it, how I can Abdullah's mothers that, hemophilia disease she had. Abdullah is getting affected here. But she's dead 20 years back. But this poor guy has been affected. Somehow he's been harmed due to this, problem. And civil law says that person is no longer a natural person. But how are you going to take care of that? It's a catch-20 situation here. So we'll talk about that also. And coming to this, yes, data. Recital 27 says not applicable to deceased person. Good, right? We're happy. But it's not going to leave you because nothing is like complete till you do your job. Due diligence and due care is done there. Like, your company is processing somebody's data. Let's say, for example, that person is no longer there. You don't even know that. That person is dead, for example. Let's take an example. Now here, you still have to protect the data because you don't know that. Even if you come to know, if there is certain things to be followed, you have to follow because there might be some national laws or provincial laws which demand you to do that. Maybe GDPR, they say, boss, you don't have to do this. What about local provincial law? 5% is still given to you for the tailoring purposes. That might ask you to do that. When it comes to disease, I know when you do that, right? People who are dead, live to the dead. Otherwise they'll crawl up and live through you. That's what they say, right, sir? But yes, they are going to crawl through us and live through us also. But yes, if there is a damage, harm caused to anybody, we're supposed to take care of those and still protect that, Abdullah's privacy. If there is injustice done to him because of this law, which is not covering exactly. Because otherwise it's going to be ocean. If they put even deceased person data is also considered as a PII, so we're going to boil the whole ocean. Come on, it's not feasible. So somewhere they're trying to work, use our intelligence, whatever that, thing, and protect the people where it is applicable. Okay. So therefore, information relating to the individual is therefore in principle not to be considered as a personal data to the law. And the dead persons are no longer natural persons in civil law. That's what I think we talked about that. Okay. So the last one, what happens if the data doesn't fall outside of this definition? Still, keep it properly and don't have to collect too much information. Keep it lean. Doesn't mean that, the individuals may be deprived of any kind of, any kind of, protection in the particular situation, like Abdullah's situation I took, right? For example, Abdullah's situation is just falling outside this. Then you need to take care of those things. So hope I did not rush too much. You'll wait for 5 minutes here, then I will just finish in another 5-10 minutes. Any questions are here? Navi sir, I think is not there. Kondrama sir?
No, I am there. Okay. Yeah, Bhimesh?
Yes, sir, I'm able to, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I will, sorry.
No, go ahead. If you have got some more thing to finish.
I have
then we will
5-10
have
minutes,
it.
sir. In 10 minutes,
please.
Everybody knows here. This, whatever I'm going to cover, my main today's agenda was not to reinvent the wheel, not even parts of the wheel. Somebody had told, right, and hey, you don't worry about this PI thing. If you know this, you don't worry. If you don't also, you'll pass the exam. For that person, passing the exam was the main objective. For me, I
Okay,
just
okay.
wanted to dissect that. Anyway, so here, there are very small things. I'm, pseudonymization and all. Why should we waste our time and treatment? Here, 5 principles, like, I consider these 5 principles like, reinforcement of cement, right? For
Yes, sir.
example. So these 7 principles are there, and focus on 6, like, they're going to reinforce this, bricks, like, plumb to the, ground, 90-degree. So we'll order those principles. So yeah, so these are the, okay, don't worry. So we'll talk about a couple of questions. Did anybody know that DNA is also special category? Kondarama sir? DNA is also special category.
Yes, yes.
But what about there is one situation, it's again an interaction session, right? Not I'm giving, you are also giving me. You means as a plural. What about if, let's say, I have a brother, by the way, I have brother-in-laws, they're twin, okay? I had like it took me 2-3 years to identify who is Vijay, who is Vikram. Let me tell you, that really, it happened with me. I used to ask my wife, how do you guys distinguish these 2 guys? Exactly, ditto, right? When they're twin, either they're boys or girls. That's also true. But interestingly, their DNA is also true. They're not unique, sir. My DNA is unique to me, your DNA is unique to me, unique to you. But when it comes to twin, their DNAs are same. Then it's a paradox, right, sir? Here, how are you going to fix it? As I think our life is full of paradoxes. I mean, this is like, scientific dumper, inquisitiveness. You guys can think over it. And Abdullah is a twin brother. Abdullah's like, what you call this? DNA is same. If there is a problem with him, how are you going to get hold of him? If it is a finger biometric, somebody collects my blood, that blood is not my personal data. Blood contents are my personal data. Finger is not a biometric thingy. Finger prints are my biometric thingy, right? So, like, this DNA is a problem here. We're in fix. Anyway, I wanted somebody's help here, if somebody can help me. So these are the principles we use. Like, when you do the processing, it has to be lawful, purpose, limitation. 3-4 are there, okay, don't worry. Minimization, accuracy, no reinventing the wheel. Everybody knows that 1,000 times you might have read it, okay? Just for the time pass, I'll go through it. Lawful, I mean, this is very interesting, fairly. I love to give one example here of Mukesh Ambani story. Mukesh Ambani used to go to one Mysore cafe in Matunga. So when I visited Bombay for the first time, I was in Matunga. Then there were city canteens are there. I was a student. I didn't have much money. I should talk to them. They used to give me a couple of extra rotis and all. So Matunga is the place, and he used to go to that Mysore cafe. Mysore cafe was his favorite place. He used to always go and have a filtered coffee like we have it in Bangalore here. And he had that, fair expectation. It's my favorite place because when I go there, I'm expecting this, I'm getting it from there. That's fairly. Anyway, when somebody gives you a data, right, they have fair expectations, right? You're going to take care of my data. It's in safe hands. Hey, maybe don't worry. You're in safe hands. Okay. So like every employee, every customer thinks when I give that data, there is a fair expectations. You're not going to do any wrong things with my data. Lawfully, transparently, and all, right? You must identify valid grounds for the, process, lawful processes before you start. First, you identify check mark, couple of things will be there. So then, yeah, you must ensure that you do not do anything other, whatever, call in case of any breach of any other laws like that, For example, when there was actually what you call German bakery blast happened in Pune. How many guys you remember? So all of a sudden, hotel guys were like they're instructed by commissioner, go for all the things, passport, all those things, collect from the visitors. Then they were like surprised. Kondarama said, why the hell you guys are asking all these things? Sir, there is a law, sir. I mean, commissioner of Pune, police commissioner instructed us to take. I mean, they were lawfully doing it. There is no such thing. If they're doing something, you should always insist why you guys are doing it. Exactly, it happened like 20 plus years back, I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, there was a case study, okay? So here's a favorite one. My favorite is like, snake and ladder story. Many people played, right? When we were small kid during summer, everybody used to take small, I used to make small, thing with umbilica seed and all, small paper, draw those, So here, the information is taken from like, Navi sir's company is taken information for, what do you call this, conference conducting, and Manju madam will do that much only. That information is given to Bhimesh, who is running a travel company, which is wrong. And Navi sir company has to go back to the customer. I mean, those people, hey, can we use it? Your information, Bhimesh is one of our subsidiary companies running a travel company. So you start from the scratch, back to square one, again start the process. if your intention, whatever, if it's incompatible with the purpose, go back and start the process again. That's the moral of the story. It's just, the snake and ladder thing. I love this story. And adequate and relevant and limited. And don't collect what is not required, right? Just, it's going to be a problem for you only. And, so if you just collect everything, it's not going to be lean. And you're going to spend more money if it is like, big database, everything you're going to be, wasting the time and all. And here, accurate. And this is everywhere. I think I just like to spend a minute here. So accurate. And what is that? We don't use this word precise. So, okay, don't question me too many things here. I'm not. So precise, we're not using it. When somebody says accurate, it's of course it's precise. It's repeated things are happening here. It's accurate. So when you say precise, so precise doesn't mean that accurate. Accurate means it's a precise also and accurate also. We can say that. So one interesting example, it happened with me. I was coming back to Pune. Bangalore. I was having my snacks in Pune. Vada pav, misal, and those things. I love it when I'm there in Pune. I was looking at the clock. It was, I think, 5:10 or something in the evening. After half an hour, oh my God, this clock is not moving. Still, it is 5:10. I talked to one of my guy over there. Sir, the battery gaya la uska. Theek hai. Then I said, very interesting. This clock is actually accurate twice a day. Once in the evening, once in the morning, 5:10. But as well as it's precise also twice a day. It's accurate as well as precise. Exactly. Look at this. This is accurate twice a day. Morning 10:10 or night 10:10, for example. And precise also. Anyway, so that's some example I give to make it more like, so our information should be accurate. And you cannot just collect the information, right? It should be like, egg timer. So it goes in the one direction. Somewhere you need to just, come up with a plan, whether it's a tax laws, for example, GST laws require, come up with a policy and decide. GDPR doesn't tell you how long you have to keep it, but you need to come up with a valid reason. You cannot, have your own way, right? It's my way or highway, no. So, and coming back with this, I think security principles, it talks about like, what do you call this? Whatever the process, whatever the personal data you process, make sure you have that appropriate technical and security or whatever you otherwise administrative controls in place. And that way, I think, somebody comes back and all, if there is unauthorized or, what you call this, unlawful access and all, you can stop it using those technical controls. Okay. The last one, but not the least one, all those 1 to 6, it's your accountability and responsibility. Stand up and own your responsibility. I did all those things. This here is my data. So nobody can. So even all those guys, those agencies will not penalize you. Definitely, because I also encountered Navi sir and Kondarama sir, those tax authorities. I will give a story offline, but tax authorities are handled in English. It's tough to do that. If you do your job, they will not harass you. I've gone through that. But here, if you show that 1 to 6 is taken care, they realize there is a real effort made by these guys. They will not be harassing you. If you try to play, dump the details and all, they will definitely come back and, haunt you guys. And this is the last but least. And when you transfer the data, I always love to give this example, right? Like, light, your really email is right. Before you send an email to somebody, Kundarama sir, right? For example, he's in US, in India. Is it like a third country, not third world, okay? Third country, which has law, what do you call this, is it covered by the adequacy regulations? If not, are we satisfied with SEC is there, binding corporation is there, all those things you said. I love to give this third country means when you transfer this, right? Light travels from this end to this end around the globe in 1 second, 7.5 times. Plus, blink up an eye, your mail is gone. Before you send that, just do check it. You're going to be in hot soup. Okay, so that's the moral of the story. And hope it was okay. Well, I think maybe 5-10 minutes. And you guys can ask me a question or two. I'll be more than happy to answer. Otherwise, as I said, right, GDPR is the ocean. I'm just learning piece here and learning from Navi sir and other veterans like many other people. Not sure who all are there here. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, any questions?
Any questions, guys? Sorry.
See, there are 2 points which I just want to make a mention. Okay. Now, Mr. Bhimesh spoke about these four fundamental components of PII. In fact, you would have perhaps understood that there are complications in understanding what is a PII. When you say it is related to any information, these are little vague. So in fact, when I wanted to actually suggest what the government should do for the new Data Protection Act, I have actually tried to list out different types of data which this act should cover. See, today, whether it's GDPR or PDPB, we have personal data and sensitive personal data. At least Indian PDPB went to the third category called critical personal data. So there are three kinds of data which was recognized by PDPB, and non-personal data was by default, whatever is not personal data becomes non-personal data. So there were perhaps say four kinds of data which was covered by GDPR and by PDPB. But to make things a little more clear, I thought that there is a need to define close to 20 types of data: personal data, non-personal data, critical personal data, sensitive personal data, transaction data, joint data, business data, and so on. Otherwise, we will be having a lot of confusions. So what Bhimesh has brought out or focused is that we are presently using these 3-4 elements, and my take on that is we can reduce the confusion arising out of it by extending the definition into multiple types of data. Of course, this is covered in one of the articles on shape of things to come. Now, the other point which was interesting was about what he said about the DNA of twins. Okay. See, we consider biometric as a sensitive personal data, and DNA definitely as a sensitive personal data. But between the DNA and biometric, which could be considered as a critical personal data is a question, because India wants to distinguish personal data, sensitive personal data, and also another stage, critical personal data. So what Bhimesh was telling was that the DNA of twins may be identical. I'm not very sure about the.
No, it is true, sir. You can just do it. I have gone through it, and
No, okay.
it's true.
But see, in the case of fingerprints, we say twins fingerprints are not same.
No, they can be different because it's a biometric. It's a physical thinking.
Yeah.
So yes, it's when it comes to genetic.
So no, if that is used, then fingerprint becomes more critical than the DNA, because the fingerprint is more unique than DNA. Okay, so we can debate whether fingerprint also should be a critical personal data.
But sir, here fingerprints are not same because it's a physical property. Although they look similar, the fingerprint doesn't talk about the finger. Fingerprints will definitely be
fine. That's an identity.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an identity. Now we are discussing whether some identity should be classified as sensitive or critical. Okay. Right. Now presently, one understanding is that biometric is sensitive but not critical, and DNA is critical because DNA is legally considered for many types of say identity, lineage, and other things. So the question which comes to my mind after your talk is that maybe biometric also should be considered as critical data, personal data, and not the mid-level sensitive personal data. Okay. Because that is, even if you say, you can say that the possibility of twins is less or something like that. But if biometric is, or the fingerprint is unique even to twins, whereas DNA is not unique to twins, then as an identity, biometric is more powerful from forensic identification.
Yep, agreed, sir, agreed.
So we have to upgrade the biometric to the critical data. It's just a thought. Okay.
Yeah, but there is no harm in discussing, I mean, we
Ah.
can always, we can be wrong also, but what is,
Okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
DNA, we can see whether because at what level of forensic investigation we can say DNA of twins are exactly same, or whether there will be some minor difference.
we don't know.
We don't know. Okay. Yeah.
But they're unique. For both of them, it's same. I mean,
Yeah.
that also we have seen it.
Yeah.
Whether twin
See,
when they're born, they're boys or girls.
even if you take the face structure, for most of the common people, twins are indistinguishable. But for the parents, sometimes I think they are distinguishable. Okay. So likewise, there are different degrees of identity. Okay. For classification as sensitive or critical, we may somewhere, it is relative to the degree of accuracy which you would like to have perhaps. Anyway, these are things for discussion.
Yeah, just thought of, yes, sir. Thought of bringing it to you. I mean, these are the sum of to create that inquisitiveness among our team.
Yeah.
We can punch the holes, and see how to handle this.
Yeah.
This is where I think, it's like a practitioner thingy we can do, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
like for us, sandbox.
Say that is why I want the law itself to distinguish it. Don't leave it everything to the practitioners and confuse them. Okay. Now, for example, if I simply say critical data cannot be transferred out of India, now the companies will be scratching their heads of what is critical, what is sensitive, and they may make mistakes also sometimes. So laws should be little more specific in terms of these simple things to make compliance easy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, compliance should not be made tough and open to too much of interpretation by the company people, because company people are not lawyers. Okay, so we should not expect them to be able to interpret what Chandrachud sitting in the Puttaswamy bench, he was interpreting. Okay, that is his skill, he will do it. But you can't expect a CEO of the company to be like a Supreme Court judge trying to interpret what is personal, what is non-personal, etc. It is unfair, and I consider the law inadequate if if it expects the companies to do the interpretation.
But
Okay.
sir, when government comes and decides, it can be over-inclusive or under-inclusive.
Possible, but from compliance side, I will be compliant and I will be happy. Now, if you are traveling in a particular road, if it's marked one way, don't ask why this was made one way. But if it is one way, I will not go this side, I will come only on the other side. But the thought will come to your mind that there was no need for making this one way. Okay, but for compliance, that interpretation is not required.
Agreed, sir.
Say compliance is following. That's why when we are talking of compliance standard, we are saying data protection compliance standard of India. We are not saying privacy protection standard of India, because I don't want to sit as a company executive to interpret what is privacy, how we can interpret privacy, because even the 9-member Supreme Court judge was not able to define privacy properly. Okay, so that's why we sat about thinking that we will call our standard as data protection compliance standard. Our level of interpretation will be only to interpret what is already there in the law into the implementation, not beyond that. Rest of it, government has to exercise their mind and say that we want to protect privacy as a fundamental right. And if that privacy has to be protected in information form, these are 1, 2, 3, 4 compliance things you have to do. That I want the responsibility to be taken by the government, and compliance should be the responsibility of the companies. Then perhaps compliance will be higher than what it is today. That is my personal view.
But you're right, sir. I mean, if you look at the compliance, and let's say when it comes to compliance, very less, there is no latitude for your interpretation. They'll come and slap the fine, you better pay and get out. When it comes to criminal or civil litigations, you can just smartly, our attorney, smart attorney can, that law, merchant of Venice, how that guy manipulated the story, or not a drop of blood should go when you take that one pound of flesh from his red chest. Oh, it's not written in the contract. Of course, it is not written in the contract, then you cannot take it. So like, smart lawyers can manipulate the things. When it comes to compliance, no latitude. There is no room for the interpretation. I think you better pay my way or highway. So that's the beauty of compliance, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir, because there should not be unnecessary ambiguity in defining a word. It is not only good for compliance, but for administration also.
Yes, sir.
Administrations can misuse if there is ambiguity.
Yes,
See,
sir.
if lawyers can interpret, similarly, the fellow law enforcement officer also will interpret. And there will be unnecessary
There's no end.
litigation, which will end up in a court of law where it benefits none except the liar. Okay, so
Correct.
therefore, removing ambiguity will improve compliance as well as the administration ability. So administration also will be easier. There will be no much problem for administering that.
Yes, sir.
In fact, it will help us in creating further developments like data score or whatever the quality of information that has come, how it is maintained, whether due diligence is there or not. Such things is possible if and only if the law is more specific and has less ambiguity filled in. This is what we are propagating from the beginning. You simply say so-and-so includes. Don't do
Yeah.
that. You first define it and include some of them. That will be better. So we need to have a definition first and then inclusive clauses where some spillouts are there from the definition, you can include them. But most of the definitions today, when you see the law, it says so-and-so word includes. It doesn't say what that word is. So this is where we need to, as both of you are telling, we need to define what is personal data, what is not personal data. Clearly, what are the things which are falling in those categories, so that compliance is possible, administration is possible. Therefore, if there is no ambiguity, no much of litigation, there is transparency, least corruption, and we can be happily complying with the law and the privacy together. That's what I opine, sir.
Yeah. Any other points from others?
Adepu is there. Adepu, Deepak, Anirban, Prakash. Any questions, guys?
No, thank you. It was a beautiful session.
Thank you very much, Deepak. Thank you. So, Anirban,
So,
Adepu.
Bhimesh, sir, thank you, sir. So, very nice session, very nicely interpreted. Sir.
Thanks,
Thank you, sir.
Srinivasan.
Now, is just a question from Bhimesh session, maybe.
Yeah.
Remember, like he was in one of the slides, he was mentioning about that value of a property belongs to the owner of the individual, like.
Yeah.
So, you were mentioning, no, like Justice Krishnaswamy in a private seminar, he has mentioned.
Oh, is it?
So I was-
And that's, see, I mean, Srinivas, as I said, right, jigsaw is the one you remember, our brain. It can beat the cosmic speed. Remember, you can just, oh man, I met that guy 10 years back. Where did he go? All those things can come, permutation, combination. Nobody can beat our speed. Even we can beat the cosmic speed, I said, right? I can travel journey without money, I
Yes.
told you. I can be there anywhere. Mars, boom,
Yes.
I'm there.
Yes, yes.
I mean, what? Yes, that's what the beauty of our speed. I mean,
And
I can have
if-
lunch in Bangalore and lunch in New York City. I can clone myself if I travel at the speed of the time. I mean, time travel. I mean, yeah.
I will agree with you, because there was a coffee posa order issued against Mr. A. That A, I happened to see him after 25 years. Still, I am able to identify him.
That is
I
the
don't know,
fragmentation
he
of
has
information,
changed his
sir.
face,
I mean,
he has changed everything. All of a sudden, I told this is the guy. Come on, catch him. Then we are able to, when we identified him, that is the fellow who.
I mean,
was-
sir, recently one guy, remember in paper, one guy was wearing all the time helmet. When he goes out also was wearing helmet, and our constable in Bangalore, what the hell is wrong with this guy? He's just going to bathroom and going to have a tea or whatever. He held him. Finally, they got hold of that after 5-10 years, that mystery was solved. Any identifiable information, directly or indirectly. The person. Then anyways, he was masking with. And
Yeah.
we'll see, we have so much of data, it's an ocean, as I said, right? We're also
Yeah.
learning so that we can reinforce our concept, because learn it all attitude, when we speak to Navi sir, humility
Yeah,
and learn it all attitude you get.
Yeah.
Relatives,
on-
sir, such a nice person you are, and you make us more, we're proud of you. That much I can tell you. Yeah, we are proud of you. And humility is
Okay.
your synonymous with your name. You know. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
Manju. Manju.
Sorry.
Yes. Thank you so much. Your topic sounded very simple, but you added multiple layers to it. And then Navi sir came and added 2-3 more layers to it. But everybody would agree that it was definitely food for thought for all of us. Such thought-provoking discussions and sessions. I was just thinking, this is what makes this FDP Pay membership so, priceless, invaluable for all of us. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Bhimesh sir and Navi sir and Karan sir for
Thank
the
you.
discussion. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, Manju. Thanks,
Right.
everybody. Keep
Yeah.
it up.
Bhimesh, catch up with me fast.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah.
We'll talk. We'll make great, we'll